All right. So, have you ever just thought about stepping into a world where your smartphone was literally built into your glasses? Like we're talking holographic displays. You could do hands-free communication. Like all the information you need is just layered right over your view of the world. It sounds pretty crazy, right? Like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Mm.
Well, at Meta's Connect event, Mark Zuckerberg, he basically tried to make that sci-fi a reality. He unveiled Meta's prototype for AR glasses called Orion.
Orion.
Yeah, and they're calling it, get this, a time machine. And honestly, it's got everyone buzzing about it, even those of us who, remember Google Glass. And let's be honest, got a little burned by all the hype.
Right.
So you sent over a couple of articles about this, one from Reuters with all the official details, and then another one from Yahoo Finance, which takes a more skeptical view, I think.
Interesting.
So let's dive in and try to figure out if Orion is the real deal or just another expensive piece of tech that'll end up gathering dust in our drawers.
Right.
Hopefully by the end of this deep dive, you'll know enough to have your own informed take on Meta's AR ambitions.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the Reuters article, they really lay out Meta's grand vision for this. They're painting this picture of a future where we're not glued to our smartphones anymore. Instead, we're seamlessly connected to the digital world through these sleek Orion glasses.
Okay.
Zuckerberg is even saying that Orion will eventually completely replace smartphones. Imagine all your notifications, messages, even entertainment projected right into your field of vision. And you control it all with just your voice and hand gestures. I don't know about you, but part of me is thinking, sign me up.
Yeah, it's a compelling vision.
Yeah.
What's really interesting to me is how this whole time machine metaphor connects to Meta's, broader metaverse ambitions. Remember, the metaverse is all about creating these immersive digital worlds we can inhabit virtually.
Right. And last time I checked, most of us aren't quite ready to walk around wearing those bulky VR headsets all day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where I think Orion comes in. It's supposed to be the bridge between the real world and the metaverse, allowing us to dip in and out of these virtual experiences while still being present in our physical surroundings. It's a bold bet for sure, and that 2027 release date kind of suggests they still have a lot to figure out.
2027, that's a long way off.
I know, right?
Makes you wonder what kind of tech they're trying to cram into these glasses that's taking them so long to develop.
It's cutting edge for sure. The Reuters article mentions these new silicon carbide waveguides, which are crucial for projecting those high-resolution 3D images. And those are incredibly complex and expensive to manufacture, which is probably one reason for that long timeline.
So they're basically trying to miniaturize what's currently in those big, expensive AR headsets.
Right.
And make it affordable enough for the average person to buy.
Yeah.
That sounds like a massive undertaking.
It really does. And, Meta's also been pushing those Ray-Ban smart glasses.
Right.
They haven't been a runaway hit or anything.
Right.
But they've been adding some pretty interesting AI features.
Like what?
Like real-time language translation, for example.
Okay.
It seems like they're kind of using the Ray-Bans as a testing ground, gathering data and refining the technology before they take the leap with Orion.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've heard about Meta's grand plans for Orion, but let's get real for a second. The Yahoo Finance article gives us a totally different perspective, a peek behind the curtain at some of the challenges Meta is facing. And honestly, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, I was curious about that.
Yeah, so first off, we're talking about billions of dollars, billions in development costs.
Wow.
And, Reality Labs, that's the division behind all of Meta's metaverse projects.
Right.
They've been losing money for years.
Yeah.
And Orion is their biggest gamble yet.
I see.
But here's the thing that really caught my eye. The article quotes these former Meta engineers, and they're saying that Orion is facing some pretty serious technical hurdles. We're talking prototypes that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars each.
Wow.
Materials are in really short supply. And Zuckerberg even had to scale back his initial production goals.
Interesting.
Yeah. And remember that handcuffed briefcase that was
Oh, yeah.
brought on stage during Connect?
Yeah,
Well, actually, that wasn't just for show.
Really?
Apparently, Meta is taking security very, very seriously with this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Especially with something this expensive. I guess when you poured that much money into something, you don't want it falling into the wrong hands.
Right.
Right. But it makes you wonder, how much faith do they really have in this thing?
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Well, I think this is where we have to be careful not to just get swept up by the hype, but remember the realities of developing cutting-edge tech.
Right. Right.
Reality Labs has been losing money.
Right.
And Orion is obviously a massively ambitious project, which also means it's expensive.
Right.
But the truth is, you can't really innovate without taking risks.
That's true, but at what cost? It sounds like they're really pushing the limits of what's possible.
Yeah, precisely. I think it's worth remembering that, those first smartphones, they were clunky and expensive.
Oh, totally.
And they had like a fraction of the capabilities that we just take for granted today.
Right.
But those early investments, as kind of janky as they were, they paved the way for a revolution. So will Orion follow that path? Or is it just another cautionary tale? Remains to be seen.
Right. Well, let's talk about some of those technical hurdles that the article mentions, because it is some pretty complex stuff. We're talking about things like silicon carbide waveguides,
right,
and micro LED projectors. I know you're not an engineer, but could you break down for us why that matters?
Sure. Basically, silicon carbide waveguides are used to project those 3D images, and right now they're just incredibly expensive to produce.
Okay.
And then micro LED projectors, those are also super expensive. And they're crucial for making those images look really crisp and vibrant.
Okay.
So even just the cost of materials alone is a huge barrier to mass production.
So basically, if they can't find a way to make these components cheaper, then Orion's going to be out of reach for most people.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they're hoping to make it accessible to everyone, but if it remains like a luxury item, it's going to be a really, really tough sell.
Right.
They need to find a way to bring down that cost without sacrificing the quality.
And that's not even considering all the other challenges like the ongoing chip shortage and just the logistical difficulties of manufacturing something this complex at scale.
Yeah.
It sounds like they really got their work cut out for them.
Definitely. It's a tough one. The article definitely doesn't paint a rosy picture.
Right.
But it does make you wonder, is Zuckerberg being overly optimistic? Or is this just like the price of pushing the boundaries of technology?
Right, because on the one hand, we have this really grand vision of a future where Orion is everywhere. But on the other hand, we have these really serious challenges. And it just makes you wonder, how likely is it that we'll ever even see Orion out in the wild?
Yeah, exactly. It's a real balancing act. And I think it's important to keep in mind that AR glasses are still in their early stages.
Right.
It's really difficult to predict the future of any technology this early on,
Yeah.
But at least we're starting to see glimpses of the potential and, of course, the hurdles that are ahead.
So we've got this fascinating contrast, right? Meta's painting this picture of a future where Orion's revolutionizing how we interact with technology, how we interact with each other. But then on the other hand, you have these huge question marks around the technology, the timeline, even how much it's going to cost.
Right.
So for you, what stands out to you from all of this?
Yeah, it really is a story of two narratives, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have Meta's vision, which is very compelling, but then you have the reality of what it actually takes to bring something this complex to market. And I think right now those two things seem pretty far apart.
Yeah. I have to admit, part of me is pretty excited about the possibilities. Imagine being able to just, pull up directions without, taking your eyes off the road.
Right.
Or having, a virtual whiteboard just, appear in your living room.
Yeah.
During a work call. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. The potential benefits here are significant. But I think, honestly, the challenges that Meta's facing are equally significant.
Right.
And I think even if they can overcome all those hurdles, there are some kind of broader questions we need to be asking.
Like what? What kind of question?
Well, what about privacy, right?
Absolutely.
If Orion actually does become, ubiquitous, are we all comfortable with the idea of companies potentially collecting even more data on our daily lives?
Right.
And then what about the social implications? I mean, are we going to become so reliant on these devices that we lose the ability to just disconnect from the digital world?
That's a good point. Yeah, those are definitely all things that we should be thinking about now rather than 5 years down the line when the technology's already here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really easy to get swept up in all the excitement of some new technology, but I think it's crucial to just kind of approach it with a critical eye and ask some of those tough questions about its potential impact on society.
Yeah, you've given us a lot to consider, for sure. So, where do we go from here? What would you say is the main takeaway for, someone listening to this who's not a tech expert,
Yeah.
but wants to, stay informed about all of this?
I think the most important thing is to just stay engaged. Don't just accept the marketing hype, but also like don't dismiss the potential either.
Okay.
Just read articles from a variety of different
All right.
sources,
Oh.
be skeptical of really grand promises, and
Mhm.
form your own, informed opinions. Great advice. Well, there you have it. Meta's Orion AR glasses, a glimpse into a potential future, but definitely one with plenty of hurdles to overcome. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of augmented reality. We'll keep following this story as it develops, and who knows, maybe one day we'll all be walking around with our own personal time machines perched on our noses. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.